Hi, I'm Weston. I love talking about the Jets, and I'm here to talk about Week 14 of the regular season, where the Jets win 30-6 over the Houston Texans in probably the best game of Zach Wilson's career. One of the best games of the year for the Jets in general. Just, what a game. And I have dressed the part, right? The formal attire has come out because I am very well aware that the majority of you guys are Astros fans, right? Come from the Astros content, but stick around for stuff like Rangers and some Jets stuff. But, I would say at least 80% of my subscriber base are probably Texans fans. And so ever since Aaron Rodgers went down, I've had this game just being a nightmare in the back of my head, knowing what was waiting for me in the comments when the Jets inevitably just laid a horrible egg in this game. And that's what had happened for the first half of this game. The Jets, it's the same old tale of they're not terrible offensively. They're kind of moving the ball a little bit, but third down, they were awful. I want to say 1 for 6 in the first half. They punted on every single drive, couldn't do anything once they got into Texans' side of the field. It was a bad game for the first half for the Jets. It's also a bad game for the Texans. I'm very well aware that the Texans have a lot of injuries, especially with the wide receiver room, but by God, the Jets secondary made CJ Stroud, who it's a weird situation for the Jets, because yes, CJ Stroud is a rookie, but through the first 13 games, he has just kind of not looked like a rookie. He has looked extremely, extremely experienced and just cool as possible for the Texans to this point. So he went through rookie treble today, but that is a very unusual thing. He has looked just precise as all get out, and he made some not good throws today, and the few throws that were on target, the Jets corners, whether it was Michael Carter, Tony Adams, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, I thought particularly was probably the best of the corners and defensive backs today. But both Reed and Gardner played out of their minds defensively. And the Jets line did a really good job of getting after Stroud. I want to say they had 3, 4, maybe 5 sacks. They had quite a few. The defense played out of their mind, as is tradition. But this is where it gets wild. Because you get to the second half, and the offense actually played the sport of football. They played the sport that the other teams play. We got to watch the offense move the ball forward. It was like a miracle. Zach Wilson, on the first drive of the second half, was moving, and then he finishes it off with a really nice pass to Randall Cobb. He walks in untouched. The Jets score their first touchdown since the Dolphins game on Black Friday. That hurts my soul to say aloud. That really just, that sucks to say. But yeah, the first one since Black Friday. And then a little bit later on, the Jets, on another drive, they march down, and then it's an Xavier Gibbs jet sweep, and he scores. And holy shit, the Jets have 2 touchdowns. They haven't done that in literally weeks. The last time they had 2 offensive touchdowns was, week 4? I want to say week 4. I believe it was week 4. It's been 10 weeks since we've scored multiple offensive touchdowns. Wow, I don't have any right to clown on Texans fans, but here I go anyway. Anyway, they score another one, and then later on, there was a touchdown to Breece Hall, and oh my God, they cracked 14 points, which they haven't in literally weeks. It was a Christmas miracle, and I'm in this weird position because the Jets were fun. It was a fun game to watch. The second half was awesome. The offense moved the ball really, really well. Zach Wilson looked really, really confident. Breece Hall was making men miss. Garrett Wilson was always open, always getting his hands on the ball. It was great. They used Conklin more. They used Ruckert more. It was just genuinely a fun game to witness. The defense allowed nothing. Whether it was Stroud or when Davis Mills eventually had to come in, because sadly Stroud had to leave the game with concussion protocol, which is awful. Hopefully he's okay by next week. But it didn't matter. The Jets' defense punished anyone who was out there. The Texans couldn't do a thing offensively. And it was great. But at the same time, The offense finally figures it out. Like, they finally look like a competent offensive unit. Hackett finally opens the playbook and figures out, oh, it's a good thing to force the ball in the hands of Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. I should have been doing that the whole time in Week 14. Like, it pains me that in Week 14 he's finally, like, the penny dropped. Because now you're 5-8. Like, technically you could finish above 500, but you'd have to win out. And I very do not see that happening. And there are the people that talk about the tank. And listen, brief thought on the whole tank for the pick thing. I have been a Jets fan since, like, 2009. There have been many a year where the most interesting thing that I got to see after, like, October were mock drafts by fan pages. I, personally, just kind of at this stage of my life, enjoy watching the Jets actually win football games. I understand that it is not the best for the draft stock. But everyone on this staff is coming back next year. It has not officially been said, but we can all read the writing on the wall. They're coming back. Douglas is coming back. Saul is coming back. Ulbrich, obviously, because he's been magnificent. This defense is unbelievable. The only reason he wouldn't is if he gets a head coaching offer, which, you know, that's a fun conversation that we'll have in the offseason. Hackett is probably coming back. And I know people think there's a 0% chance. And, like, look, I don't think it's high. I think it's less than 10. But, like, depending on what Zach Wilson does down the stretch, clearly this team has a very hard time accepting when they have, you know, failed on a pick. There is at least a possibility. There's a reality where Zach Wilson returns as the backup or the third string for next year. I'm not saying that any of that is the good thing to happen or the right thing to do or the smart decision. But everyone is coming back. The only one that's really up in the air is Zach Wilson. I understand that a better draft pick would probably be better, because you can either get a better offensive weapon to help Rodgers next year, or a better tackle to help Rodgers, or you give him a young quarterback to mentor for a year or two. I understand that in my head. But everyone stays. I don't want to see this team finish a year with 10 straight losses. That is supposed to have Super Bowl, or at the very least deep playoff hopes for next year. I could not mentally deal with them losing 10 games in a row to finish the season. I would prefer them not even to go 1-9 down the stretch. I want them to stack a couple of wins. I would love for them to pull a massive upset against Miami, or go out and find a way to beat the Commanders, which, I mean, granted, everyone kind of can. I would love it if they somehow, even if it meant no playoffs, I would love them to somehow find a way to win out and go 9-8. And people might say, well, but what about the draft? Listen, I am so mentally destroyed. The last time I genuinely rooted for the tank, it ended up with Zach Wilson being the pick. I'm a little scarred from past trauma to fully buy into the tank. So while yes, from a sheer draft perspective, I understand that the wins matter. I just want to see them win. We know it's staying the same. I would greatly like to see that. I think there was a lot to be happy about today. The defense continues to look incredible. And this was, I know he doesn't quite have the respect that others have, but damn if you don't start to think Stroud's in the same conversation as the other really elite guys. Like, when you're talking about the top-tier quarterbacks that the Jets defense absolutely embarrassed this year, and you talk about Allen in Week 1, Hurts in Week 6, Mahomes in Week 3 or Week 4, when you're talking about those guys, you're also going to be saying Stroud in Week 14. It's the same conversation. It's the same sentence. Hopefully, it's also the same sentence as Tua Tagovailoa next week. And then offensively, Garrett Wilson, who's been very good this season, that's obvious. But the past couple weeks, it's just been hard. Granted, he had Tim Boyle throwing the football, so, you know, put that there. But has been up and down, had a great day. He was always open. They finally schemed him open. Breece Hall, who's been very roller coastery, was unbelievable. Making men miss. He's still got it, clearly. I think he went over 120 yards of total offense today, like 80 receiving, 40 rushing, which is cool to see. They got other people involved with the offense. They scored 3 touchdowns, and Garrett Wilson didn't have one of them. Like, they finally got Cobb to get a touch that wasn't bad and painful. They got Xavier Gibbs the ball, finally. And at this point, I care a lot more about just the vibes and the confidence that, hey, this is a functioning football team and they can do some stuff next year when they have a good quarterback and hopefully, God, please, a healthy offensive line. I would far and away feeling better about the next season than going, oh, cool, we get to pick 4th instead of 7th. That is far and away where my mindset is going into the last few games. And one of the last few games will be next week. December 17th, the Jets will come down to Miami, Florida, the beautiful winter paradise, to play the Miami Dolphins at 1 o'clock Eastern, and I will be here afterwards to talk about that game. But as for right now, that is all I have to say. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider to like and subscribe. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day, and as always, go Jets.